We did another episode that I titled You Can't Grow Weed in National Parks. And it's because there's a lot of thru-hikers and backpackers who have been coming across, especially in the West, marijuana plants. Huge operations that are illegal, but because some of these parks are so remote that people can kind of get away with growing a ton of weed out here, and they're many times run by the cartel.
Are you telling me that there is cartel activity along these long trails?
Yes. Yeah.
Like if I'm through hiking the PCT, the cartel is there.
Potentially.
Welcome to Backpacker Radio, presented by The Trek, brought to you by LMNT. I am your co-host, Zach Badger Davis, sitting to my right is...
Hi, I'm Juliana Chauncey, a.k.a. Chaunce.
Reminders. This isn't really a reminder. This is a reflection.
Yes.
Trail Days was awesome.
It went really well. It was bittersweet, though, because we were there for just too quick of a time.
Yeah.
Next time longer.
All right. Well, we haven't actually been there yet.
No.
But we are, we have our crystal balls out, and we've been before, and we just know that it went great.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this when this comes out, I am on the road driving to New York to get married. So I'm leaving directly after getting back from Trail Days, and I'm probably either just about to wrap it up or probably on the last leg.
Yeah, we're going to have to get some guest people to sit in to do segments. I'm guessing that'll probably just be Jess. Maybe Elise.
Could be Elise.
Get weird with it. Maybe see if Vikings around.
That dude in the office over there.
Rad.
His name is Rad.
His real name is Rad.
That is so fitting for the offices in this building.
Yeah. He's a cool guy. But yeah, we had a good time at Trail Days probably.
Do you think it's a nickname for Bradley?
No. Because I looked him up on LinkedIn, and it was literally just Rad.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Trail Days was great.
Yeah.
We had some really good interviews. We met some great people. The size was perfect.
Yeah, size was great. We'll have way more debriefing from Trail Days after we've actually done Trail Days. But as of the time that you've heard this, we've been to Trail Days, and it was great.
Yeah.
Next is, if you want the best from the Trek, just subscribe to the newsletter. That's where all the good stuff happens. We recently announced that we're paying for someone to hike the Santa Fe to Taos Trail, and that happened so quickly I didn't even get a chance to mention it on this podcast. So if you want the breaking, juicy stuff that's happening in Trekland, you have to subscribe to the newsletter, and the link is in the show notes. Next is, we think we're going to pull off a Denver Live podcast this December again, make it 3 in a row.
If the guests appear, we will facilitate.
Yeah. So we need a big name guest to warrant pulling all this together, because it's a lot of work to
It
make
is a
these
lot of
live
work.
podcasts. So if you are that person, or you know someone who is willing to travel to Denver, or maybe you're local already, whatever it might be, suggest yourself, suggest a pal, just drop a note in a comment somewhere. Let us know who you'd like to hear. Big splash.
Yeah, because live podcasts can't happen without guests. And we've been on such a great streak. We had Dirtmonger, and then we had Kylie Hates Hiking. So we want to match that energy if we do.
Yeah. And PMags was not Denver, but...
Yeah, I was just
live
talking about the
podcasts.
Denver ones.
Yeah. And lastly, but not leastly, is if you guys enjoy this podcast and you want to support your favorite gingers and their squad, you can do so at patreon.com/backpackerradio. For as little as $5 per month, you get to support the show. And through our Patreon, we put all of our episodes advertisement free. So if you've been listening, you're like, I don't want to buy all this awesome stuff that they keep talking about. Well, here's the way to wean yourself.
And a thought exercise, I just say think about your past 30 days, your past month, and think, what is the dumbest thing I've spent $5 on? And if you come up with an answer, why not replace that with this? Why not make this the dumbest thing you've spent money on? Think about your subscriptions, right? Like, what subscriptions are you not using? Maybe cancel one and put this in its place. Who knows? If you can't think of an answer to that because you're just like really good with finances, or times aren't the easiest, then obviously we are so happy to have you just regularly listening. But if that's not the case and you can think of something, then consider this as an option.
Speaking of forgotten subscriptions, patreon.com/backpackerradio. Since I've been sick, I've been catching up on all the TV that I don't ever watch. And I remember just a bunch of people telling me I have to watch Severance, and I'm like, fuck, I don't pay for Apple TV. And then I reminded myself, I do pay for Apple TV. I've been paying for Apple TV for months, and I haven't watched it in months. So, I need to get through the second season of Severance and then cut my money off, because, damn, that's how they get you.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's how we're trying to get you. I don't know.
We are trying to get you in that same exact way.
Yeah. But
we hope that you wouldn't forget about us. We hope that you would be listening to the episodes and like actually getting value from it.
Yeah. And I'll venture to guess that the $5 you give to us is more meaningful than the $7 you give to Apple. I don't think they really need the money.
Jeff doesn't. Not Jeff. Who's Apple now?
Tim. Mr. Cook.
Always those short one-syllable names.
Yeah. Tim's got enough of our monies. Okay, cool. Let's chat. And by let's, I mean Chaunce only is going to chat with Danielle and Cassie from the hosts of National Park After Dark.
We are joined by Danielle and Cassie. They are the hosts of the National Park After Dark podcast. Danielle and Cassie both grew up in New England and developed a love for the outdoors at early ages. Their popular podcast covers some of the more morbid aspects of the outdoors, from tales of unlikely survival to gnarly wildlife encounters to true crime murders and disappearances. Danielle and Cassie, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're excited to be here and be in person in Colorado visiting. It's great.
Yeah, you were just telling me before we got on that you guys are on a trip currently?
Yes.
What's going on with this trip?
So we do group trips through National Park After Dark where we bring listeners to different places. This is probably our 11th or 12th trip.
Yeah.
We've done quite a few, but this one we're here to do some national park visits. So we're going to go to Great Sand Dunes National Park. Then we're supposed to head over to Black Canyon of Gunnison, but there's some fire activity over there. And then we're doing Rocky Mountain, and we'll be doing some hikes, some camping, and it'll be really fun.
Nice. Are these different people for each park, or are you taking them with you?
Taking them with us the whole time.
Really?
Yeah, they're flying into Denver, and then we're all kind of hopping in a bus together, and we're camping and hiking for about a week.
Oh, wow. What's the longest leg of the drive?
Probably to the sand dunes, because it's about 4 hours.
4 hours.
Do you do a vibe check with them before you put them on the trip?
We have a few return people who we do know that are on this, but outside of doing quick Instagram creeping and seeing who they are, not really.
Got it. Have you ever had any weird encounters?
No. Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood, because we're meeting them tomorrow. But no, everyone's been really lovely. We've been really fortunate that our community that we've built is full of people who just love the outdoors and want to find like-minded people. And we found that everyone is just so lovely and wonderful that we haven't had any issues or any like weird people try to join, which has been great.
Yeah, that's a great boat to be in.
Yeah.
So you both are from New England?
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you guys meet?
So we met after college. We both hopped into the same animal hospital to work at. And it was in 2016-ish.
Yeah.
That we met.
December 2016.
Oh,
I started work December 1st, 2016.
Okay.
And then we met.
Okay. Yeah. So we worked as veterinary technicians together for a number of years. And we quickly realized that we were the outdoor coworker friends, while everyone else kind of just wanted to do other things with time off. We headed up to the White Mountains of New Hampshire. We hiked a lot there, recreated there. I mean, growing up, we both grew up in neighboring towns in New Hampshire. So we kind of ran in neighboring circles of friends and stuff for many years, but never really knew each other until well after college. But yeah, so we met there and just did a lot of hiking and stuff together outside of work. And then I decided to move to Washington State, and Cassie decided to move to Vermont. And then that's where the podcast was kind of born, is because we were having these types of conversations about everything that you kind of touched upon in our intro while we were out hiking and exploring. And we're both avid travelers beyond New England. So just different locations we would go to, we would find interesting stories and tell each other about them. So when we did the cross-country move, we're like, we should just format this into a podcast format and show and see how it does. And it's been wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you decide on a podcast as the format for it, and how did you get that off the ground running? Because I feel like a lot of friends like always, like, I don't know, me and my friends have sat on the couch and it's like, oh my God, there should be a podcast, you know? I
Right,
feel like
yeah.
that's like a conversation girls have.
Yeah.
And to take it and be like, okay, no, let's actually make one. And with that comes a lot of responsibilities. Here's how we're going to work to our strengths. Like that, I feel like is where most dreams die.
Right. The overthinking part, which
Yeah.
we were blessed because we didn't think about it at all.
Yeah, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, and we didn't understand the amount of work that really goes into it and is behind it. So I think we went in not really worried about it because we were like, okay, we love this. We're going to talk about it. Hopefully other people will like it too. I mean, for example, we went in and we bought $25 microphones from Walmart and said, okay, let's learn how to edit and watch some YouTube videos. And we didn't realize how all encompassing it was. And it wasn't until we started getting a following that we realized, okay, now we actually need to put the time and effort into this. And now, since we've upgraded all of our how we do everything, and now we have a much better understanding of how to format podcasts, but it has been a learning curve from pretty much the day that we started.
Yeah. But we did go in pretty much blind.
Yeah.
I mean, Cassie knew what a podcast was, but she wasn't an avid listener. And as far as like we were vet techs. We didn't know anything about anything when it comes to podcasting
Or technology.
Like now, I feel like, you know, because that was 4.5 years ago, I think podcasts have exploded, obviously, and had already been pretty popular in 2021, but we weren't really in that world. And now that we are, we're kind of look back and say, thank God we didn't know, because that's where you would say, you know, you get tripped up of like, okay, this is a good idea, but like it's overwhelming when you know all of the things that go into it. So we were really happy with our origin story.
Yeah. And I feel like you guys have done really well too. Like you guys, like you said, started to grow a following and a lot of people clung onto these stories and really liked them. What do you think it is about the stories that draw people in?
I think everyone has a morbid sense of curiosity to some degree, some more than others. And it's interesting because when we first went into this, we're like, oh, let's just do the true crime angle. And that was pretty much our business plan. We're like, outdoors, national parks, true crime, let's see how it goes. And that lasted for a total of like 3 episodes. And we very quickly realized we wanted to talk about more things. And there's other types of dark material that isn't just straight true crime. So our audience definitely was hooked with like the more morbid stuff at first, just because we were talking a lot about murder and some pretty heavy stuff. But history is full of just morbid things that aren't just straight up murder. You know, dark history is from A to Z, and we found that pretty quickly, and we're interested in that. And people hooked onto that pretty quick as well.
Yeah, and I think another part of that too is when we started talking about national parks, there are so many different types of people who want to recreate in national parks. And I think finding these stories, we found that telling, even though they're morbid sometimes, telling some of these stories actually makes people feel more comfortable in the outdoors. So we've actually found a lot with our audience. They were people who were trying to find a gateway into the outdoors, or they just loved the outdoors, and they started listening to our stories and they actually found inspiration to go out instead of being fearful of it. So I think that's a lot of where the curiosity comes as well, because now you're putting a location that people can visit and then you're also bringing a story behind it and bringing them a way that they can see it as well.
And have you been to a lot of the national parks?
Yeah.
Is that something that you did prior to going and having the show, or is that something you've done since having?
Both,
for sure. Yeah, we haven't been to all of them, but we are constantly adding them, checking them off of our list. We just got back from Glacier, and it was our first time both in Glacier National Park. So we hiked up to the Granite Park Chalet. We stayed overnight. We were there for a couple of days, and that was something that we had been wanting to do for a long time.
Yeah, but I think we've counted them. We're hovering around 26, 27 each. But this year alone, we're going to 7. So it's just kind of like always checking them off. And now we just say we're working, you know, like with before, it's just like personal travel. And it's a combination of both now for us.
Yeah. Which is your favorite of the ones you've been to?
Mine is always kind of a boring answer. I love Yellowstone. I know people pick on it for being the Disneyland of the National Park service and system here in the U.S., but it is so magical and wonderful. I love the wildlife, the history there being the world's first park, and just it's just beautiful. We actually extended our trip. We did a last minute after Glacier. We drove down through Missoula and Bozeman visiting some friends, and we were going to fly from Bozeman to Denver for our couple days here, but we realized, hey, we have a spare like 20-ish hours. Should we just send it to Yellowstone from Bozeman real quick before our flight? And so that's what we did.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long was that drive?
From Bozeman?
Yeah.
To Yellowstone, about an hour and a half.
Oh, that's not as bad as I thought.
No, but then from Glacier to Bozeman was
Like
what,
5
like
hours.
5 hours,
Yeah,
something like that.
it's a big
So
state.
yeah.
Okay, Yellowstone. And what about you?
I have always historically said the Grand Tetons have been my favorite, and that's because it's the first and only park that I've lived near. And I just have a lot of firsts there. So I went outdoor rock climbing for the first time there. I saw moose for the first time there. I had my first bear encounter there. So it was always kind of this special place. But I always have also said that once I went to Glacier, I thought that that would be my new favorite because I have always wanted to go. And I do have to say that in terms of beautiful landscapes and hiking wise, I have to say that Glacier is my favorite so far.
Yeah, it's a hard one to beat. Did you do any hikes while you were there?
Yeah, we did the Granite Park Chalet, and then it's about 8 miles to get there, and then we did the Swift Current Lookout, which is the fire tower that kind of looks over the chalet and a bunch of the park as well. And that's about, it's about 4.5 miles round trip from the chalet, but if you start, it's like 12.5 if you start from the beginning to the end. But it was really, really cool, and it was fun to see, and we were there in July, so it's wildflower season, so the park is just stunning. It has so many different colors with wildflowers, and then the water's beautiful, and these huge peaks, and there's still snow-capped mountains, and it was incredible.
Yeah, and we took the High Line out to the chalet and back, which
we've learned now was maybe a mistake.
Why is that?
There's quicker ways out.
There's quicker ways out. And there is, once the High Line is obviously one of the most popular trails in the entire park. And for a reason. I mean, it's stunning and beautiful, and it's right in Logan Pass. And we took it out. It was great. We had no second thoughts about taking it to the chalet. But on the way back, we realized there's a couple options. You could either take Swift Current Pass or the Loop down or the High Line back. And we had parked at Logan Pass, so in our minds, we're like, let's just go, backtrack, which is an option. But the other trails you could have done and just taken a shuttle back to Logan Pass, which historically has been a great option, but there's a lot of construction going on right now, and there's a lot of, timed and ticketed entries and reservation only to certain parts of the park. So we were kind of sketched out about, okay, even if we go down to Swift Current Pass, and
can we get a ride
can
back?
we get a shuttle back? So we just decided to go back, but we quickly realized, hey, we're the only people hiking in this direction, on the High Line, and it's because it's not a crazy elevation gain or anything going back, but there are certainly way easier means and shorter, like Cassie said, going down.
About half the trip, and that you are going downhill the whole time. I mean, we climbed, I think when I looked at my watch at the end, we did 2,000 foot elevation gain on the way back, and we could have just walked downhill for 4 miles and done half the trip. So
versus an 8 mile back.
Versus 8 mile back with 2,000 elevation gain. But it was fine. It was beautiful and fun. And like Danielle said, halfway through, we realized, we were looking around and we're like, we're the only people we've seen walking in this direction. And we came across a lot of people walking towards, and people had asked us, oh, did you do the loop? Is that why you're walking this way? And it didn't click to us for a little while. And then we're like, oh, people are asking because nobody does what we just walked. But it was great, and it was lovely to be on the trail, so it was fine.
Did you have a moment during it where you thought, I should just turn around and go the other way instead of finishing it this way?
For a hot second,
we were like, if we turned around right now, we would still do the same amount of mileage, but we would have less uphill left to do. But also, there's something to say about saving your knees and not walking downhill the whole time. So It kind of.
We just committed.
Yeah.
Like, we're here.
We're here. It's beautiful. We have nothing. We just said we have nothing else to do today. Why not?
Yeah. Hey, that's a good mindset to have with it. How often are you guys out on hikes together in a year? Because I know you said that you're doing seven of these trips this year.
Well, so we have 7 parks that we're going to this year. And as far as, it's so funny because we don't hike together now unless we're together on trips. Like, because Cassie lives about 3 hours away from me. So when we're together, we're on these trips. So I don't know. I would say we probably hike together a good amount of time during the year. Like,
Yeah, every time we do a trip, it's a hiking trip for the most part. So that's when we're mostly on trails together. Occasionally, we'll meet up in the White Mountains because they're between us, and we'll do a hike there. But lately, it's mostly been work trip-related hikes that we end up on, which is also great. And then we have our own trails that we just do.
Yeah.
I like to solo hike a lot, so I'll just take my dog out with me around me. And I'm in the Green Mountains in Vermont, so I'll do that.
So of the trails that you've done, I guess let's go together first. Which one is the favorite that you've hiked?
I mean, it's got to be the High Line, I think.
Yeah.
It's got to be up there just because it's so fresh in my memory. I love, in Washington, Cassie came out to visit me, and I brought her to Mount St. Helens National Monument, which is one of my favorite places. And I'm blanking on the trail's name now, but Harry Truman's. Do you know about Harry Truman?
President, right?
Is he?
Was he a president?
No, not. I don't.
Well, was Harry Truman a president?
I think there is a Truman
Yeah,
president.
he was the 33rd president.
Okay.
Oh my God, the way you just looked at me, I was like, do I not know anything in the world?
Well, it's not him. That's not the person I'm talking about. But he essentially, this Truman had a resort and home on the slopes of Mount St. Helens for decades. And he had like a big camp there. People came and, stayed in cabins and boated on the lake and all of that. And he was elderly when the eruption was happening. And he was one of the very few people who refused to evacuate. And the eruption happened, and he, like 9 of his cats and his whole property got buried. And there's a trail that overlooks where his property was, and it is so stunning. And if you have good weather, it has beautiful views for miles, and it's awesome. It overlooks Spirit Lake. I love that hike.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, but Highline Trail, it's pretty busy for the first couple miles, which can be kind of, it can be kind of annoying when it's like there's so many people, and I have a fear of heights, and that trail is pretty narrow and has some pretty steep drop-off, so it's annoying to me because I'm scared, and I don't like crowded trails in that type of condition. But after the first couple miles, it's like there's not a lot of people around.
Yeah.
And it was great.
It becomes sparse. People turn around. Because you have a view the whole time, so it's beautiful. And I think a lot of people park in the parking lot, and they'll hike up for a while just to kind of get a little bit into the backcountry and see the beautiful views, and then they turn around, and then you kind of have a lot of the trail to yourself, which is nice. I think one of my favorites that we've done is the Iceline Trail in Yoho National Park.
I love Yoho.
Yeah.
It is amazing. It's so underrated.
Yeah, and you don't think about it as much because people go to Banff
right.
and they stay there, and then Yoho is like a hop
right
and a skip.
there.
It's literally right there.
Yeah, and it's so underrated. There's way less people. The views are incredible. The trails are great. And I had never been until we went on one of our trips, and I was like, wait a minute, what is this? This is amazing.
Yeah, I've been to Yoho in like the dead of winter and in the middle of summer, I think, or closer to fall. And I've got some places where I've taken the same picture just like at different times of the year, and it is just unreal, that park.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be easier to find. It's not, so just ignore me. What about solo? What are your favorite hikes that you've done solo?
I actually have done...
Well, actually, pause. Before you go there, tell me more about the Iceline Trail.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this trail is, I would have to really look it up and see how far it is. But why I really loved it was because you start off and you have a really steep incline. And you're basically just walking straight uphill, no break, for a few miles.
That's usually what I hate about a trail.
Well, you would think that, but then you get to this beautiful open ridgeline and you're walking for a few miles. You're kind of exposed, but there's alpine lakes, there's crazy views, and you're in this whole different terrain when you're up there, and it's for a few miles. And it's kind of like you get that steep hike out of the way, and then it's smooth sailing for a while, and you're just enjoying this beautiful, beautiful view. And then eventually you dip back down and you go into the woods, and there's these lakes that are like these teal blue waters that are beautiful and amazing. And suddenly you're in these brush and wildflowers. We're at the top, you're in this rocky ridgeline. And then one of the parts that I really loved about this trail is you get out kind of towards the end and you're still a little higher up in elevation, and you have this view of this waterfall. And for us, when we walked out, just the way that the sun was hitting and the time of day, there was this huge rainbow that was covering the waterfall, and you just had this view of the Canadian Rockies and this waterfall in the front, and you're still higher in elevation. And it was just it was such a magical hike that I just really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm picturing like butterflies and fairies flying around
That's how
as
it
you're
feels.
describing it. It sounds magical. It sounds colorful.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite solo hike?
One of the ones that come to mind is the Kendall Peaks Lakes Trail, and it's out near Snoqualmie in Washington. And I think that one stands out for me because I actually haven't done a ton of solo hiking. Do you consider being with your dog solo hiking?
I just mean like not with each other.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make the
Yeah.
question different.
Yeah. I really love that trail. It's beautiful. I went in fall where all the fall colors in Washington, which happens in, a flash, had already kind of started dissipating, but it still was lingering, and there was some snowfall there. It was that day there wasn't anybody else there, so it felt like I had the whole place to myself, which was really nice. And Washington is just stunning. So that was my favorite solo hike I've done in recent years.
How longish was it?
I think it was around 6 to 8 miles. It wasn't too bad.
Okay. Are all these day hikes that we've talked about so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Very
I
well.
guess the Granite Park Chalet, we were there, we stayed overnight. So that was a 3-day thing that we were out there. It didn't take us 3 days to get there, but
Like the High Line would be a day hike.
it could be, yeah. Okay. It would be about 16 miles if you did it as a day hike.
Yeah. And it also transforms from Logan Pass to the Chalet is the Highline Trail, and you can continue on that trail, but it switches names and it goes up to Waterton Lakes.
Okay.
So, and it goes much further, but the classic traditional Highline is, doable in a day.
Well, I think this is good because a lot of the times when we get hike recommendations on this, they're multi-day hikes. So then we get asked for shorter hikes, and now that we're getting them, it's great. What about your favorite that you've done solo? Or just not with her?
I really love the Franconia Ridge Loop. And you've done the AT, right? Yeah, so you've been up there, and it is just so beautiful and amazing. And I mean, you go up there and you can stay at the Green Leaf Hut that's right there, and the views are incredible, and it feels like you're so far out, but then you can also see Cannon Mountain, and there's like a ski resort over there, but you're still so far away. And I love that one. And I think because we're from New Hampshire originally too, it's kind of like the home place to recreate. So that one, even through all my hikes, one that I have not done with Danielle, that was my favorite for sure.
Yeah, that one's hard to beat. I can't knock that one. Okay, transitioning towards these stories, because this is really going to be the highlight of this, is getting some tidbits from what your podcast is all about. Before we hop in, what is your research process like? When you take a story and you decide, hey, this is going to be an episode, how does that go from the idea of it to the podcast phase?
It varies from episode to episode, but I think the most interesting part is finding the stories, because we do have a list kind of going now that we're 4 years in. We have a lot of backlog ideas, but it's primarily through travel, reading every plaque, every little tidbit in the visitor center. Books, of course, are great resources. Of course, there's documentaries and different movies that can spark an idea, but generally we find most of our stories as literal footnotes in books. Like Cassie has one that she found from one sentence in a book that was completely unrelated. So that's the funnest part, is just searching for the actual story. And then once we find it, I mean, every episode is different, but primarily if there's a book on it, we want to read it. Some episodes have 10 books published about them, while others maybe just be it'll be a little pamphlet or something. But if there's any literature, we always want to read it. If there's a documentary, we want to see it. If there's any interviews with anybody involved in the story, we want to watch them or read them. And that's hard sometimes with more historic-based episodes. You know, you can't really, there's a lot of times that information is kind of sparse for events that happened, 80, 100 years ago, but we do our best. And then from there, we decided to just do a narrative type of format. We found it, as far as what we gear towards in our own interests, the most engaging. That's what we feel, how we retain the most information about something. So we decided to format the show that way.
Yeah.
How long does it take you usually to research an episode?
Average 10 hours or so.
Yeah. Usually like it depends, because if we're reading a full book, sometimes it can take a little bit longer for the actual research, but to actually sit down and write an episode, it usually takes us about 3 to 4 days. And then the research is really just dependent, because sometimes it'll take me like a week to read a book. Sometimes I'll be super into it and it'll be 2 days. So it's really kind of dependent, but there are a lot of hours that are put into it for sure.
Yeah.
Are you dividing and conquering, where it's like, I found this footnote and this is going to be a story that I take and I research and I develop, and you found this other one and you're working on that at the same time? Or is it, I found this footnote, let's do this one, and you both dive in and kind of build it together?
We have actually never done a collaborative episode.
Okay.
Yeah, not one where we're both telling the same story. And that what's kind of fun about the way that we research is we switch week to week, so every other week. But when we write these scripts and when we write down the research, we don't show the other person. So the reactions that you're hearing on the podcast are genuine reactions, because if I'm telling a story, Danielle has never heard it before.
Yeah, that's fun.
And vice versa. And we just found it to be a little bit more authentic that way, versus if we were to write out a conversation to have about something, it's a lot easier for us to just be like, it almost feels like, I think, for a listener, that you're listening with friends who are learning a story for the first time. So you're kind of engaged in this. There's one person telling the story, but you're all listening and hearing it for the same time. And that is kind of what we have wanted to bring to the podcast when we have it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, I just had my head on a question and then it lost. Come back. Nope. Okay, that's gone. Anyway, so the stories. I started listening on the way to here. You guys sent a list of stories that might be good to touch on. I decided, okay, I'm going to listen to. I just picked one from the list on the drive over here, and I was about 10 minutes away. I came early because it's just me today. Zach's still sick. So I came early just in case you guys arrive early type of people, and I had to stop it because I thought, we're about to figure out what's about to happen. Like, the main part of the story is going to happen. And I'd rather it be like you said, where I'm not coming here and sitting and I've heard the story before and you're telling the audience. I want you to tell me too.
Sure.
So let's jump in to some of these stories. We'll start with the one that I was listening to on the way here. Very topical because you guys just came from Glacier. But this is episodes 17 and 18, so it's a 2-part story, and it's Night of the Grizzlies, Glacier National Park.
Oh, yeah.
That has gone down in history as probably one of our most popular episodes to date, and for good reason, because the Night of the Grizzlies, it took place in August of 1967, and essentially what happened was there were 2 women who were mauled and killed on the same night in Glacier in 2 very separate parts of the park. And it opened this whole question of how are we treating grizzly bears and how's the Park Service treating them, and it opened up kind of a re-look at what people were doing. And that is where the story gets really interesting, because these 2 people were mauled by 2 separate grizzly bears on the same exact night. It was August 12th of 1967. And what happened when they looked at how people were really treating grizzly bears is they realized the National Park Service was feeding them. And not just feeding them, they were actually creating dump sites where they would put bleachers for tourists to come in and watch. And people loved it because they wanted to see grizzlies. They were in the park. But they actually had bleacher stadium seating, basically, for people to watch grizzlies fight over garbage. And for one of these maulings, it happened at the Granite Park Chalet. Not at the Granite Park Chalet, the mauling didn't happen, but it happened at the Granite Park campground that is right below it. It's about a third of a mile to get there from the chalet. And what happened was they actually had one of their dump sites very close to the campground. So now people were sleeping and grizzlies were coming and feeding and fighting each other and becoming food aggressive while people were sleeping in their tents several feet away.
Mm-hmm. And what was so unprecedented about this night in particular is not only is it two different people, two different animals, two different separate parts of the park, but in all of Glacier National Park's history, up until that point, there had been no documented fatalities from a bear in their park's history. So this is like...
Or even severe injuries.
Yeah, this is like a double whammy. And it really, like Cassie said, just opened the doors to discussion and reevaluation of what is our human bear wildlife conflict management, protocol, and what are we doing? And, the whole bear feeding stuff was occurring in Glacier, but it was also happening in other parks around the country. Yellowstone has a history of it. Out East has a history of it. And it just kind of led to, obviously, food conditioned bears, which is not good. But a lot of the policies we see today and a lot of the education we see today when you're going into places that have a bear presence, whether it be black bears, brown bears, or a combination of both, is, all that information comes from... A lot of it comes from this night and just the lessons that we learned collectively as to how to responsibly interact with bears and what not to do. And those two women, they were both 19-year-old girls, that had been, one of them, they were both working at the park, weren't they? One of them was at the Lake McDonald Lodge, and the other, I think, was working somewhere else.
Was she? I don't recall. We researched that a long time ago. I don't remember if she was working in the park, but she was up at Trout Lake with a group of friends. And Trout Lake at the time, to preface, people didn't think grizzlies were dangerous and didn't have the knowledge that we do now that they're aggressive. And there was specifically one grizzly bear that was actively charging people's cabins, trying to get in, get into their food. They were showing up at picnic tables and stealing food right off of their tables with people around, acting very aggressively, not far from where this took place at Trout Lake. And Trout Lake was a very well-known spot for grizzlies to hang out because it was filled with dense brush of blueberry bushes or just berry bushes, I should say. And it was also a lake that they would come to feed and drink at, and they were camping around a fire, and the bear came and when she was sleeping and dragged her out of her sleeping bag and dragged her up a hill and mauled her, and all of her friends could hear it happening because they were hiding in a tree nearby to try and escape, and all her friends could do was listen, and they spent a long time listening to her get mauled. So it was horrific. And then with Julie, she was at the Granite Park campground, and when she was attacked, she was actually with her boyfriend. His name was Roy Ducat, and they were camping there, and this is right next to where they were feeding bears. And the bear actually mauled both of them, and Roy got away, but Julie was dragged further away from the campsite, and Roy was able to go back to the Granite Park Chalet and get help, and people tried to go find her, and they did find her and brought her back to the chalet, but she had been so severely mauled that she ended up passing away in care, waiting for care. So it was these two horrific, awful cases that happened. And people finally were like, wait a second, are grizzlies dangerous? Because it's kind of how black bears are seen today. Oh, they're cute. They're not aggressive. And that's also we found in our stories is not true. Danielle told a horrific story of someone in the Great Smoky Mountains getting mauled by a black bear. But now it changed our whole perspective of bear behavior and how we need to treat it. And eventually led to them not feeding bears in the park anymore. And they said, hey, maybe this isn't a good idea. These bears are aggressively fighting for their food, and now they're associating people with food. And unfortunately, after all these events unfolded in Glacier, they killed several bears because of it, because they were trying to find the one that had attacked. They attacked both of them, really. And they did find one of them, but the other one's questionable if they ever actually found the correct bear.
Are you guys ever able to like get in touch with like the other dude that was also mauled, or are there people like from the three friends in the trees that you're able to find their contact info and like get their sides of the stories, or is that really hard to do?
We have not specifically talked to them. There are books and there's a lot of articles with information with firsthand accounts from them. We haven't been in contact with them in particular, but in bear maulings, we have had people on the show that are survivors of bear maulings.
Really?
Yeah.
What do they say about it?
Well, in right in Alberta, we had Jeremy on. I forget his last name. He goes by the Grizzly dude.
Yeah.
But he has a book, and it's titled Mauled. And he was a very experienced outdoorsman. He had been hunting, hiking, recreating outside his whole life, born and raised in Canada. And he was out hunting one day, and he's the first to admit it. And he did tell us in our interview with him, but also he writes it in his book that he made some pretty big mistakes, that he said that it was kind of like due to a level of comfortability that he had, because he had just been outside for so long for most of his life, that it just wasn't on the forefront of his mind. Like, he had bear spray, but it was at the bottom of his pack, and he was looking around, but he wasn't as aware of his surroundings as he should have been, and et cetera, et cetera. But essentially, long story short, he was out and he was looking through some binoculars, and I think he was hunting sheep.
Yeah.
And he was, scanning with his binoculars.
Sorry, hunting sheep?
Yeah.
Like sheep like that graze on a farm?
No, wilds.
Oh.
Like mountain goat type of.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it. Like
Yeah.
sheep. Got it.
Yeah.
In my head, I was just like, wait a minute, the picture I'm painting just took a weird turn.
No, yeah.
And
Okay,
I
sorry.
guess if I remember correctly too, where he was, you kind of get a lottery system to be able to hunt.
Yes.
And he had been waiting for this for like years. It wasn't something that you could just go out and do. So he had been specifically waiting for this permit to do this. And he finally gets out there, and he's unfortunately comes across a mom and her cub, and he surprised them, and she viciously attacked him several times. Left, came back, and
His entire face is off his face.
yeah,
like
she ripped his face off, and he somehow managed to walk out, find his way. He couldn't see, but he knew the terrain so well. He was able to find his car, and he was out of cell phone reception, and he was able to drive himself to help.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he has pictures of his face in his book and on his social media that you can see where he thought for some reason when this was all happening, he was like, I'm going to take a selfie. And he took a selfie of this happening.
Yeah, and he wrote like a letter to his family in case he didn't make it, and it was just like a whole thing. The bear stories definitely stick with us. I mean, I did another bear story up in, actually just over the border, and on the Crypt Lake Trail in Waterton Lake National Park.
Yeah.
And that one, it was kind of like a trifecta. It was a young couple. They were in their 20s, and they surprised. So there was a surprise aspect to it, to a bear. She had cubs, and she was defending a carcass. So it was kind of like the worst case scenario. And she did attack both of them, and they were both significantly injured. Patricia more so than her boyfriend. But they did eventually recover, get married, but she had a lifelong struggle with recovering from not only her physical injuries, which never really fully healed, but also the emotional trauma of that, and it really stuck with her. And we find through a lot of our stories, not just with animal encounters, but different difficult situations, people handle them so differently. Some people come out the other side really traumatized and have a difficult time and have a different relationship with the outdoors, and others, you know, take it in a different way and make their life's purpose about overcoming what happened. And so for her, she wrote a book about her experience, and you know, she was very honest about, you know, this wasn't like a story that you see all the time of like, it wasn't the bear's fault and I am totally one with nature and I can't wait to get back out there and it just happened to be a freak thing. She was like, it was a freak thing. It was an animal being an animal, but I am petrified. Yeah. And I have a really hard time with that. And she ended up dying by suicide at the end of her life. So there's just like, we cover all the stories that there are because everyone has a different relationship with not only the outdoors, but how they handle the experiences that can be like pretty difficult, you know?
What was it like for you guys going on this trip that you just came down here from to, it sounds like the trail or really near the campsite where one of those maulings happened?
Yeah, we went to the place that it happened. And when we were staying in the Granite Park Chalet, that is where a lot of people, where both of the people who were mauled were brought to for medical attention. And it was definitely eerie. It wasn't the only reason we wanted to go there because it was something that we told on the story. It's also incredibly beautiful, and we met some amazing people while we were there. But we did see a grizzly bear and her cubs.
Did you?
Right next to the chalet when we were hiking on the trail. So, and we had to kind of veer off and go in another direction. So seeing that was a little like, okay, this is so cool, but we also know what can happen. Mm-hmm. And when we went to the campground, it's really dense down there. The woods are really dense and you're going around corners and there are so many places where you can't see the other side. So we were very cognizant to be very loud because we didn't want to scare anything.
And this isn't like a huge campground. There's 4 sites.
There was one tent there. We were totally alone when we went down. So it was definitely eerie. And there is something when we were there, I mean, at the Granite Park Chalet, they have a bookshelf and Night of the Grizzlies is sitting right there.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And many people brought it up. I mean, some of the guides that we were with brought it up. There were people staying there, people working there that brought up Night of the Grizzlies just because it's so much ingrained in kind of their lore now, but also, like we had mentioned before, the lessons that were learned, I mean, they are so on top of their bear safety now, and they have rangers who are constantly walking around looking for bear activity. They make sure there's no trash around. They're so diligent now, and that unfortunately happened because of this event, but at the same time, people are a lot safer than they ever have been visiting these places because they're so much more diligent about it. So it was eerie, but it was also, I felt definitely more cautious, but not unsafe. It felt like we knew the right precautions to take to be safe. And we had bear spray and we were in groups. They say to hike in groups of 3 or more in grizzly country. So
we had 3.
And we made sure to do all the things and came out just fine.
That was Katie Jackson. She's one of the Trek girls. She had stopped by to grab something before you guys got here. I had mentioned that she was saying, I had listened to that same episode, but her dad had sent it to her when she was hiking the Continental Divide Trail on her way to Glacier.
Oh, no.
And she was like, thanks. Wish maybe you didn't.
It's like, you just traumatized me right before I get here.
Yeah, but I feel like that would make me like so freaked out to hike on that trail, just knowing that happened there. But is it more comforting to know, I guess, because I know this story, I know all the precautions that now they take?
Yeah, it's kind of like knowledge is power, right? If you go in unknowing, maybe you feel better about it, but are you better prepared? Probably not. Yeah. So there is, I mean, we were definitely paranoid. We were definitely talking loud, and at points we were like, this feels weird. Maybe we shouldn't be here, and we listen to those, like, our intuition and moments like that. But for the most part, I really think knowing is way better than going in, like, blissfully unaware and then finding yourself in a situation that you're not prepared for.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, that's the grizzly bears. The other ones that have been mentioned, just to switch up the area a little bit, let's see. You know what we haven't talked about too much for national parks is Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky. And I know we have episode 2 on this list of stories that stand out for the Mammoth Mysteries. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that was one that Danielle covered. It was our second episode ever that she covered. And it was really interesting because Mammoth Caves, when you think about you're going on this really cool trip underground to see these beautiful cave systems, you're not really thinking that once there was a tuberculosis sanitarium in there. So that is, once you know the story of that, but Danielle specifically spoke about Stephen Bishop, who was a guide there, and he originally started as an enslaved guide who got to know Mammoth Caves better than anyone ever did. I mean, he mapped it, and he was brought there by his enslavers, and they basically said, this is too dangerous for me, you go down there. And he was the one who mapped the cave system that we know today, and a lot of those trails that you hike when you're down there and the cave systems that you see are named because of things that he named them, which is really interesting. But also what's interesting about that is there's the tuberculosis sanitarium that's going on through all this. So there's an active hospital where people are dying down there while there's tours going on. And then now Stephen Bishop is thought for people who are visiting today to actually haunt. And people have had many experiences when they're on tours learning about the history of Mammoth Caves, of seeing Stephen Bishop or hearing him or having these eerie things happen when they're down there.
Oh, how interesting. Tell me more briefly about this tuberculosis hospital, because how do they get a hospital into caves that long ago?
So it wasn't a hospital that you think of today by any stretch of the imagination. So Mammoth Cave has a really interesting history. Of course, it predates, the 1800s, which is when primarily a lot of this stuff is happening. It had been used by indigenous cultures for centuries. They had found mummified remains of people in there. So it's been used for different reasons throughout much of human history. But fast forwarding to this time, it had also exchanged hands a lot, because there's a whole nother chapter of Mammoth Cave history that we briefly touched upon. I think you're testing my knowledge, just 4 years ago, that I think we briefly touched upon, and that was the Kentucky Cave Wars. And essentially, this is before the National Park Service got involved, so it wasn't owned by the government. But essentially, people were finding all of these caves. There's different caves around this area, and we think they might be all interconnected because, of course, Mammoth Cave is still being mapped. It's thought to be one of the longest cave systems in the entire world. But people were fighting over ownership of different parts of the cave or different cave systems locally. And it got named or dubbed the Kentucky Cave Wars because people were getting pretty brutal about it, like pretty nasty, as far as it wasn't like, oh, I have more money than you, so I own it. There was a lot of sabotage and shady things going on. People died trying to gain ownership of the cave systems. But regardless, so the tuberculosis sanitarium, this guy who owned the caves at the time, decided that this was when they were still experimenting with a cure for tuberculosis. And if you've heard of, a lot of time, the Rocky Mountains are known for the Rocky Mountain clean air, and a lot of people from the East Coast who were suffering from tuberculosis were prescribed to literally come to the Rocky Mountains, Estes Park, etc. I mean, that's what F.O. Stanley did with the Stanley Hotel, to feel better and to get better. And one of the thoughts that this guy had in Kentucky was maybe being underground will help.
And part of that was because caves have their own temperature climate, where even if it's the middle of winter, it'll still be like 55 degrees and it never gets cold and it never gets hot. And there's a certain humidity down there. So there was this thought that if he brought all these tuberculosis patients down there, that they would have this miracle cure. And he actually had tuberculosis himself. But unfortunately, it was found very quickly that he was not facilitating this miracle cure. He was just putting people underground to die. And there were a lot of people who got upset because at the same time, Stephen Bishop is running tours that pretty much walk by them, and people who are there with their families just trying to see the caves are seeing these emaciated, extremely sick people in these cave systems. But also what's important to note is tuberculosis was an airborne disease. So now you're bringing all of these tourists next to all of these people who are extremely sick, and it got shut down fairly quickly. It was only open for, I think, like 2 years. It was very, very quick.
But you can go still see there are remnants of some of the tuberculosis huts that are inside the cave system. They're kind of like these stone,
like rock structures.
Buildings.
Like walls, pretty much. I wouldn't even call them buildings. They're like these weird walls that you can go and see where they just had people underground in pretty horrific conditions who were very sick.
But yeah, you can go see them if you want.
Wow.
And you might get haunted.
Yeah.
Did they have lights down there back then?
No.
And so Stephen Bishop had an oil lamp that he explored the whole cave, or not the whole cave system because it's still unmapped, but as far as he went, I mean, he was using ropes and oil lamps to get to where he could be, and he was totally alone. So he would go deep into these really narrow cave systems with really no way to get back out. He could have easily gotten lost, but he was just so intelligent and knew how to map and had a great sense of direction that he was able to map it out and get out safely, which no one else at the time was willing to do. So that's kind of why he's left this mark there, because we wouldn't know Mammoth Cave the way that we do now without him. But of course, there's the dark lore behind it. And he is actually buried right outside the entrance as well in a cemetery.
I was going to ask, if it's haunted by him, does that mean he died in there?
He did not die in there, but he died nearby. Okay. Because even after he was released as an enslaved person, he stayed because he loved it so much. He got married, and him and his wife stayed, but very shortly after he was no longer enslaved, he passed away. I think it was within a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. All I've ever heard about Mammoth is its caves, and I haven't gotten to go yet. So
now you know all the history.
That makes it more interesting, honestly.
It does.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to pick another one in a different spot for us. I'm going to do one that will give something to the PCT hikers. And this is episode 192, The Last of His People. And this one happens
Ishi.
In Lassen National Park.
This is the story I was talking about that Cassie found through a footnote.
Really?
In another book.
Yes.
Yep.
So I was researching, the way I found this story was I was actually researching John Turnow, who was known as the wild man of the Wenatchee in Olympic National Park. And when he was basically kind of an outcast, people didn't really understand him. He went off to live in the woods by himself, and he ended up in an altercation with someone who he stated that these people shot at him, and he shot back and he killed them. But because he was so estranged from society, they kind of dubbed him as this dangerous wild man who lived out in the woods, when really it kind of seemed like he just didn't like people that much and he wanted his own space. But anyway, they put out this manhunt for him, and he ran into Olympic National Park to get rid of people chasing him and stuff and get away. But in that book, it said the day that John Turnow entered Olympic National Park, Ishi left Lassen volcanic. And it was just that one sentence where I was like, wait, who is Ishi? And
there was no other context.
There was no other context. I didn't know who he was, and I looked it up, and Ishi was the last of his tribe. He was an indigenous person living in Lassen volcanic, and unfortunately, as we know through history, that once settlers came through, they eradicated most indigenous people, and especially in California, there was a huge, basically the government put out to kill indigenous people so they could take over the land, and Ishi's people were unfortunately part of that, and he somehow managed to escape, and he had remained unseen for generations. There were some instances where people would see him and try and chase him, and there were talk that there were still indigenous people in the woods, but no one really knew. But eventually, he was the very last person of his tribe, and he was starving, and he couldn't live on his own anymore, and he came out and he asked for help. And unfortunately, when he asked for help, he was immediately arrested. and they didn't really know what to do with him. And eventually what happened was they used him as part of a museum, and he lived in a museum, and he is the reason why we have a lot of artifacts and language from his people, because he came out and he eventually worked with people and showed them a lot of his customary ways, because he was the last of his tribe, and that whole culture was about to die out. So he agreed to carry on the knowledge for people to know, but they literally had him living in a museum. And eventually he did pass away from diseases that were passed on from settlers. So he didn't live there for, it was a few years, but he died much younger than he should have. But it was this whole story of him. He actually brought these people back to where his people lived, and he showed them the environment and the land and what they lived off of, and where his people were, where they got raided. I mean, there were some horrific crimes that he detailed, where there was one that I'll remember where they were hiding in a cave, and these people came in that were paid to kill them, and came in and killed his entire family. And him and, I believe it was his mom, him and his mom fled. And he had all of these really awful stories. But with that, he got past that. The people who he was talking to and working with were basically the same type of people who had killed his entire family. And he decided that he wanted his family and his tribe's legacy to live on. So the only reason we have knowledge of them today is because of him. So, and it wasn't that long ago either. I don't remember what year it was. Do you?
I thought it was in the 20s.
It might have been, but it wasn't like, even if it was 100 years ago, or it was still in the 1900s at some point. So it wasn't that long ago.
Interesting. Do you know what tribe it was?
I'd have to re-look.
And his name was, and just, I mean, we remember him as Ishi, but he refused to tell them his actual name.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the one piece of information that he kept close to his heart. He was willing to share so much of his cultural traditions and his way of life and his understanding of what we now know as Lassen Volcanic National Park. But he did keep his name, as he kind of died with that. And yeah.
It was the Yahi tribe.
How do you spell that?
Yahi.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I have not heard of the Yahi
Yeah.
tribe.
And that's such a good point. He never gave his real name because that was considered something special and knowledge only to his people. So to this day, Ishi is just his given name.
Interesting. Okay. Another one for the PCT fans, the Crater Lake National Park episode. That's episode 98, Unfinished Business.
Oh, yeah. So that one is one we actually just recently talked about as well with somebody, as far as like reflecting back on, because it's currently unsolved. But essentially in the 1950s, there was a very brutal double murder that took place in Crater Lake National Park. There were business partners that were out on a business trip, and they just made essentially a side trek to Crater Lake. They had some extra time, and they wanted to do the loop road around the park, and they were off at a pull-off, and that is kind of all we know as far as why they were there. But somebody came across their vehicle that was still on. The doors were open. It looked like they literally just got out and were looking maybe at a view at one of the overlooks. And unfortunately, they were found several days later by trail crews deceased. But not only were they deceased, they were murdered execution style by somebody. They had mouth gags, they were restrained, they were shot point blank. There was a lot of different things that indicated, of course, it was a violent crime. And it's unsolved to this day. There have been leads, and there has been some flurry of new information. There's actually a new book that got published between the time that we told that story and today, which I have not read yet. And of course, there hasn't been any official, like, we know what happened. but the feeling is that it was an opportunistic crime because they were business professionals. They were, I believe, in the motor industry. So they were both wearing suits. They looked pretty, like if somebody wanted to rob somebody, they were driving a nice car. They were dressed well. So they believe that it was a robbery kind of like gone wrong, essentially. However, it's kind of unclear because a lot of their belongings were still on them, that you would think that would have been taken. But one of the victims' granddaughters or grandnieces, again, you're testing my knowledge, this was years ago that I researched this, picked the case back up and said, I want some justice for my family, and somebody out there has to know something. This is an ancient history. There are probably people still around that have some sort of knowledge, and for a while they were thinking maybe it was the mob because there was some mob activity in the area, and so there's lots of different theories.
Mob activity in Crater Lake National
There
Park?
was, yeah. Yep.
Pause there. That's a story on its own. Have you done an episode on that yet?
We did talk about it a little bit because it was a lead. We wanted to give some context, but it could be an episode on its own. Yeah.
What's going on with the mobs of Crater Lake?
It was in the 50s, and there was some big situation out there that had some ties to Crater Lake. So
I will say there are some pretty big, and we did another episode that I titled "Don't Grow Weed You Can't Grow Weed in National Parks," and it's because there's a lot of thru-hikers and backpackers who have been coming across, especially in the West, marijuana plants, huge operations that are illegal, but because some of these parks are so remote that people can kind of get away with growing a ton of weed out here, and they're many times run by the cartel and other people in that realm. And people have stumbled across them, and immediately, if you ever come across something like that, it's get out, because if they find you, you can be in if they see you, that you've seen their operation, you can get into some pretty serious.
Are you telling me that there is cartel activity along these long trails?
yes.
Yeah,
Like if I'm through hiking the PCT, the cartel is there.
potentially.
That's freaking wild.
Even if it's not like the cartel, there are these operations that are happening. And I researched it pretty in depth because they actually have rangers who are dedicated to patrolling the backcountry for these operations. And they've busted quite a few of them out there, because there have been some people who have gone missing have been people who have stumbled across these operations and saw things that they shouldn't have seen and known locations they shouldn't have known, and have since disappeared. So they say if you ever come across something like that, just leave. Don't
try and investigate.
Don't look at it further. Don't be like, great, I just got weed like for my trail. It's just like, get out of there as quick as you can and don't be noticed.
Interesting. Why national parks? Like, I would think a national park has a lot of rangers, it's a national park. I would pick somewhere maybe less obvious. Why would they do that there?
Because some of these national parks have so much land that rangers aren't patrolling. Because if you look at places that have huge swaths of land, I'm trying to think of, one was Kings Canyon. Kings Canyon is massive. And yes, there are backcountry rangers, but sometimes it's one person who's out there. And it's so hard to patrol every single remote section. And a lot of these sections might not even have trails. So people have found these little pockets of these parks, and not only are they not often patrolled, but also they're not subject to logging or other operations to come in. So I think that's probably what attracts people to national parks, is because they're protected space that people aren't going to see. And a lot of times they're discovered from aerial investigations, because routinely rangers will go do an aerial search of parks to see if anything has happened, because a problem with these weed operations, minus them being extremely dangerous for just the common hiker to come across, is that they're actually destroying the parks, because they will fully log areas and they'll cut down tons of trees. They leave a ton of trash that's around just from the operation itself, but they will cut down really important vegetation to the park.
They're cutting down trees and people aren't noticing?
Yeah,
No
because
one's hearing that?
No,
You're
because
in the
they're
middle
so remote.
Wow.
It's so remote.
Are they like going in on quad bikes, or are they just really strong backpackers to get to these remote areas?
Probably backpackers, to be honest, because they're not trying to be noticed. And they do carry out a lot of a lot of stuff. So I think it's something that probably, I mean, I'm not fully knowledgeable about what their full process is, but they do bring a lot of stuff out, and people are sometimes out there for years operating before they're noticed. So
Whoa.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. When I forget, it was a while ago that I researched this now, probably last year.
It was over a year ago, yeah.
Yeah, but it was incredible the amount of busts that they have. I mean, if you were to look it up right now and just said like national park weed operations, there are articles upon articles. There was one in Olympic that happened. There was Kings Canyon. I mean, they're kind of, especially over the West where there are so much uninhabited lands where people can kind of sneak their way in, is where it's happening. And not to say it's happening in every single location.
No, yeah.
It's pretty unlikely that you're going to come across it, but if you ever do, you should get out of there quick.
That's so fascinating. There was one day when I was on the Pacific Crest Trail where there was a dude hiking southbound that had told our trail group that he had dropped his jar of weed, and that if we could find, like if we found it as we were walking, we could have it. And it was me and 4 dudes, and they were all like, sick, we are finding this jar of weed. And it was kind of fun because it was like, oh,
Treasure hunt.
We got 20 miles today, and I'm bored of my podcast. So if I can look for a mason jar on the side of the road or on the side of the trail, and it'll cheer everyone up around me.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that mason jar. Didn't see any signs of weed for those 20 miles, but I'm laughing hearing you talk about this. Like, I was literally seeking it out that one day because everyone was like, oh my God, this is the story of our day.
Yeah.
Is this guy had dropped this and we wonder who's going to stumble upon it. So interesting. I wonder if he was in the cartel.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Maybe
Yeah.
he just had a jar of weed and he's like, well, I'll just be a trail angel today and pass it on.
Yeah, and there's another sort. Speaking of weed in national parks, there's one that we covered again a number of years ago, but it's just so we're like, it's lighthearted. It's not exactly lighthearted, but it's kind of fun to talk about, and it's about the Dope Lake incident in Yosemite. So essentially, I think it was in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
There was a plane that crashed into a small plane that crashed into one of the lakes in Yosemite that was carrying a ton of weed. And it's a pretty remote lake, but the climbing community, which is obviously
Yes,
huge.
I've heard about this.
Yes.
Didn't they all go
Yeah.
nuts about it?
They did.
Oh,
They
yeah.
all figured out about it. Word spread like wildfire, and the Park Service had an incredibly difficult time wrangling people in because as soon as the climbers heard about it, they hightailed it out there to the lake and just scavenged.
They were diving.
They were diving for bundles of weed, the weed that washed up on shore. And
They were camping up there for
Yeah.
extended periods of time, like had full weeks out there just diving looking for this weed.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, like the pilot lost his life,
Right,
and
that part's very
people
sad.
died, and but in Yosemite, like it was like kind of the golden era of the climbing, chapter of the big, like people, dirt bags, like actually living in Yosemite and just having the time of their lives, and then they're like, score, we have, hundreds of pounds of weed, just kind of, it was kind of, soaked in jet fuel and waterbogged, and but they
it
made
was-
do.
Yeah, and it was funny because when you were telling the story, I specifically remember there were people who did find a lot of it and then they were selling it, so people were getting like jet fuel weed. But it was almost this staple. It doesn't matter that the weed is awful, it has such a good story behind
Right,
it
you
that
have
people
to
just
say
wanted
that you've
to
had the jet fuel weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That reminds me of the recent movie, but also true incident, is the cocaine bear.
Oh,
on the
Cassie
East
covered
Coast.
it.
Oh,
Did you?
man.
Don't
I
even get her started
did.
on the movie.
I'm going to get you started.
Oh
I didn't
my
watch the
God.
movie, but I know
Thank
about
God.
Cocaine Bear.
Oh, thank God.
The movie
because-
looked like it was just too kitschy for it.
Yeah. So the movie's funny because I actually saw it in theaters, which was crazy.
Which is crazy because Cassie does not watch movies, and I'm like, of all the movies you went to see Cocaine Bear.
sure
Like, Danielle,
did.
it's research.
It was kind of, except the movie doesn't follow the true storyline. So the movie very much heavily focuses on a black bear that consumes a shit ton of cocaine after a plane drops it out of the sky, and then it
kills
goes on
everyone.
a killing rampage and like kills all of the park rangers and visitors and is like going wild, which is not the true story. But there is elements of it that are true. And I personally think that the true story is way more interesting than this like weird cocaine bear that just makes bears look bad and is not even slightly true. But what actually happened was there was this guy who was a drug smuggler, and for some reason that day he had recruited his kid's like karate instructor to be like, he was a pilot, and he was like, hey, why don't we go down to the Bahamas? They lived in Kentucky. And they're like, why don't we just go down to the Bahamas for the day? Like, I'll fly you down there. And he was like, sure, that sounds great. And on the way down there, he's like, oh, by the way, I just have to make a quick stop. Stops in Cuba and picks up a shit ton of cocaine. And this guy is just like, oh my God, I thought we were
kids karate instructor.
I thought we were going swimming. Yeah. So he's like, why did you bring me on this? And on their way, he's very paranoid. He doesn't want to be there. But on the way back, they get this radio communication that basically informs them that they're onto their plane and they suspect them of having drugs. So the guy is like, okay, we can't get caught. What I need you to do is, here's a parachute, jump out to this guy who was just an innocent bystander. And he's like, okay. And he gives him like a 10-minute lesson on how to parachute out of a plane. And then he says, I'm going to parachute too. Meet me here. And and this guy's like in it now. So he's like, okay. And he jumps out, successfully lands. Surprisingly, it's like a pretty rough land, but he successfully lands. The guy who is the drug smuggler, he jumps out, and his parachute doesn't deploy, and he lands in someone's driveway and dies.
Oh no.
And someone looks out their window and sees this guy who is strapped with cocaine.
Yeah.
And
It's not funny.
It's not funny.
It's not funny, but it's also like,
what the hell?
yeah. So this like poor family looks out their window and sees this guy just splat on their driveway, and they of course call the police, and the police come in and firefighters and rescue and whatever to try and help this guy, but he's clearly died on impact. But then they find all of this cocaine around him, and they're like, what is going on? And then of course the plane that he abandoned
it's still in the sky.
It's still in the sky. It ends up crashing in the mountains, I think in like the Blue Ridge Mountains or something.
Really close to the Appalachian Trail.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But he had been offloading cocaine
the whole way
whole
there.
time.
He didn't want to get caught, so he had been dropping cocaine the whole time over Georgia, and it ends up landing in this national forest in Georgia. It was the Chattahoochee National Forest, something. God, I can't think of the name.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it's like the Chattahoochee National Forest. A bunch of it lands there, and it's not for several months that there are hikers who are out there who suddenly are walking and they come across all this white dust everywhere. They're like, what is this? And it's just like all in the trees on the ground. There's like a trail of it.
I want to know who the first one to figure out what it was did.
Well, they were walking, and suddenly they come across a deceased black bear that is covered in cocaine.
It was the bear who found it.
It was the bear who found it, who had spread it everywhere, and who had ingested all of it.
Who had ingested it and probably spread it everywhere because he was out of his mind.
Yes.
On coke.
Yeah. And what probably happened to this bear is that he ingested it, probably got very high, and then died of an overdose, unfortunately. But the cocaine bear...
He didn't kill anyone.
He didn't kill anyone, and also he probably died very quickly, versus this like movie just says he goes on a rampage and kills everyone. That's probably not what happened, and probably had a heart attack and died.
Yeah.
If you, not to go into how bears get high, but if you eat cocaine, does it get you high?
I think just ingesting it, yeah.
Really?
Because it's going into your bloodstream.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't ever hear of people eating it.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it tastes really bad, probably, for people to
Good
eat it.
probably.
It probably tastes bad. But it's, yeah, and especially at the amount. I mean, he dropped kilos of cocaine.
You'd think the bear at some point would be like, that doesn't taste good. I should stop. Or like, I'm starting to feel funny. I should stop.
Maybe he was like, I'm starting to feel funny and this is great.
I should not stop.
Yeah. And so that's really how the cocaine bear there was. And the interesting part about the cocaine bear is after they found them, they did a necropsy on the bear to figure out like exactly his cause of death. They found out it was all of the ingested cocaine that he had. And then they actually had him stuffed and they put him in the visitor center.
No.
Yeah.
And they didn't tell anyone who this bear was. It was just a bear in the visitor center.
Is that still the bear
Like
in
a
the visitor center?
taxidermy.
It's no longer in the visitor center, but it's funny because he does still exist and you can still visit him.
Where?
So he
He changed hands
He changed hands many times. So he actually there was a tornado warning that was going on, and they decided to empty out their visitor center and put things in storage because they were afraid. And somehow, like after they moved it, he got stolen. And he ends up in Tennessee in hands of, I forget, it was some country star.
He was a famous guy.
It was a
right?
famous guy. Yeah, it was like.
Hold on, I'll look him up while you continue.
Did
Yeah.
he know that he had cocaine bear? Or did he just have a bear?
So there was no cocaine bear was not labeled. He just bought this bear to put it in his house, and eventually it changes hands. I think he passed away, and it went to someone else, and it ends up in like this knick-knack shop for years.
Waylon Jennings.
Waylon Jennings had it in his house. Country star has it in his house. It ends up changing hands a few times. It ends up in this knick-knack shop. So maybe he didn't die, but he like sold it and sent it to someone. But it ends up in this knick-knack shop. These people die, and there's like an auction for all of their things, and then someone recognizes that this is Cocaine Bear.
How?
I don't know.
I forget why they knew this. I think there was something
Like
with it.
recognizable about him.
There was something where there was a label with it, but just no one advertised
white
it.
rim around both nostrils.
Yeah, right. And so he was recognized, and there is a place in Kentucky, if you Google the name, I forget the name of it, but it's basically like this hometown, like proud Kentucky shop that now houses Cocaine Bear.
And he now wears a crown.
And he now wears a
Shut
crown.
up,
And
he's
he's
so
on
cute.
display.
Wait.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like a cute little dog.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's got chains.
Oh, yeah.
It
He's
looks
dressed
like
up.
he's smiling, to be honest.
He probably died happy.
Here
Yeah.
sits Cocaine Bear. In 1935, Cocaine Bear was found dead in Chattahoochee National Forest. He overdosed on 40 kilos of cocaine dropped by Andrew Thornton. You might remember Andrew from the Bluegrass Conspiracy. Don't do drugs or you'll end up dead and maybe stuffed like poor Cocaine Bear. That's his little
That's a
plaque.
new DARE program.
Yeah.
People in Kentucky just bring their kids to see Cocaine Bear.
That's so funny. That reminds me, have you guys ever came across the story of Moldy Bear? This is a White Mountain story.
I don't think so.
What?
Yeah.
Moldy Bear.
I've told this briefly on Backpack Radio, so I won't go into too much detail, but I had stumbled upon it during some research of the AT, and basically Moldy Bear was a taxidermied bear that they found that they started hiding in the different huts just to scare people, and they'd like put him on the roof and stuff, and he ended up getting really moldy because of just all the activity they were giving him.
Yeah.
And they called him Moldy Bear, and they just kept moving him around the huts.
Interesting. Never
Yeah.
heard of him.
It's a better story
so
than
much-
that if you like look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't take it from me, but
That's
it's
a lot
worth
of
reading.
effort to carry
Yeah.
a bear from hut to hut.
And it's an ugly bear. I saw a photo of it. It's like this, it's like standing up, but kind of like not big, healthy bear. And
Yeah.
moldy and
like
old.
bad taxidermy
Bad
bear.
taxidermy.
Yeah.
Bad taxidermy bear is right.
Got to keep things interesting when you're out in the wild for
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah. Okay, let's do one more. And I'll give you a choice. We can either do another one along one of the big 3 trails. I think maybe we would do the lightning strike in the Tetons
Sure.
at Jenny Lake. Or if you have a standout favorite one that you're like, man, these people have to hear this one.
Jenny Lake is really good. Grandma Gatewood is really good too.
Yeah.
Grandma Gatewood's very topical because it's the AT.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to talk about Grandma Gatewood.
All right, tell me about her.
So Grandma Gatewood is an icon on the AT because she was the first solo woman to hike the AT in 1955. And she wasn't the first woman to hike the AT, but she was the first woman to do it solo. And she was 65 years old when she did it. And she was really interesting because she loved to go for walks and stuff, but she actually didn't tell anyone she was doing it. She just told her kids, I'm going for a walk. And they assumed it was for around the neighborhood. And then they didn't find out until months later when she appeared in a newspaper. And it was like, Grandma Gatewood is hiking the AT. AT when they saw their mom was doing this, and they're like, wait a second, we thought she was on a walk around the neighborhood. What do you mean she's hiking?
6 months later, she's still walking around the neighborhood.
And she was not like an avid hiker.
No.
She did not have any sort of equipment. I mean, she used like a shower curtain as a tent. She had Keds on her feet. Like
she went through 7 pairs of them because she just didn't have the right footwear.
She just decided she wanted to do it. And she had read about it and was like inspired to do it herself.
Yeah, so she read about Earl Schaefer, who was the first guy to actually complete the AT, and that was, I think, was kind of a light bulb moment for her, where she was like, if he can do it, if a guy can do it, I can do it. It was her moment. But also, she had been in this really abusive relationship and marriage, and she had like 11 children, and they had all grown and were out of the house, and she was leaving her husband. And I think it was like, okay, I think a lot of people who go onto the AT, you know, it's you have a change in your life and you want to reflect on your life, and this, I think, was the same for her. And she said, if a guy can do it, I can do it. So she handmade a denim sack. She threw in, like, she had cans that she carried for food. She just brought a blanket. There was no ultralight gear or anything that she was using. She just went out and did it. And she met a lot of opposition on the trail, because when she was walking, and a lot of people would see her and they'd be like, where's your husband? Why are you out here? What are you doing? And she just said, I'm walking. I'm going to do this. And she actually tried once first, and she got lost in the Katahdin wilderness, and she had to be rescued. And so she was discouraged from that, but then not for long, because she came back and she ended up hiking the entirety of the AT, becoming the first woman to do it. And along the trail, people started noticing that she was the only woman out there. And she got recognition, and people started following her story and kind of cheering her on. There was a combination. People were really shaming her and saying, you're a woman, you should be at the house with your husband. And then there were other people who were like, whoa, a woman's doing this. Like, we have to follow this story. Yeah. And she does the entire duration of the AT. She finishes, and she gets all of these interviews, and they're like, why'd you do this? Like, why as a woman would you hike the AT? And she just said, because I wanted to. And after that, it was really incredible, because it went from pretty shortly after that, the trail had only been like 15% women, and they were all with husbands or people, no one solo. And after that, it spiked up to like 30% of all AT hikers were women. And then, of course, now we're seeing way more. I mean, you're one yourself who has hiked the AT, and she kind of opened this gateway to be like, women can do this, and not only can they do this, but they're gonna thrive at it too. And I mean, she even talks, there's a book that is about her. It's called Grandma Gatewood, and there are moments in it that are really frustrating, because at one moment she finds this kindness from other people who are on the trail, and they're guys, and they're camping, and they invite her. They're like, okay, well, you're a woman, you shouldn't be alone at night, like sleep here without, you can set up your tent. And they're very nice to her, but at the same time they expect her to cook and clean and like clean their clothes for them while she's there. And she's like, okay, I'm on the AT right now, and I'm doing this crazy hike that
I'm not your mom.
I'm not your mom. I'm not your wife. I'm not your caretaker. And she's still being treated like that while she's actively doing this. So she had a lot of obstacles that she had to overcome, but she just did it. Not only did she do it the first time, the first solo woman to ever do it, she also went back a couple years later, and she was 65 the first time she did it. She does it again. She becomes the first person to ever do the AT twice. And then she does it a third time, and she section hikes it. And she did that. I mean, she was in her like mid 70s when she section hiked it. So she was just such a badass woman.
And just like a real example of quiet leadership. Like there was all this fanfare around her eventually, but that wasn't of her own doing. She just simply decided to do something.
She didn't tell a soul.
She didn't tell anyone. She didn't even tell her family. And just like everything that came after that, it was a really cool story.
Yeah. Oh, love her. We have, if you guys are interested, I can give you one after, but we have backpacker radio stickers that we made once upon a time. I don't know how it seemed like such a good idea at the moment, but we made like a Grandma Gatewood prayer candle style sticker.
Oh, nice.
I've got them in my
Cute.
car.
I love that.
We would love that.
I was
Yeah.
telling Zach on one of the previous episodes, my fiance forgot to lock my car the other day, and someone had broke in and like, you know, going through to see if there's anything worth taking. There wasn't, but just left the Grandma Gatewood stickers scattered all over. And I'm
What
like,
are these?
you didn't want them? Like, yeah,
Like,
you didn't
look
want
how
that?
cool these are.
People would love to have these. So, yeah, you guys are welcome to have what the car thief did not want.
Cool. We'll take them.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, these are really good. We could go with this all night, honestly.
I mean, we have
but-
over 300 episodes, so
Yeah.
the catalog is lengthy. But what we really like about the show is there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
If you're interested in the outdoors or national parks and public lands is kind of the foundation through line of all the episodes, but they vary so much. Like, of course, we talked a lot about animal encounters, specifically bears, in our conversation. We have true crime, we have dark history, we have indigenous history, which sometimes are unfortunately the same. We have survival stories, we have natural disasters, we have a little bit of everything. So wherever your interest lies, Cassie did one about the women's right to vote, the struggle and fight for that, because the National Park Service, commemorates and manages not just wilderness spaces, but memorials and historic sites and national seashores. And there's over 400 units just here in the United States. And so there's thousands of stories. So we're just getting started.
Yeah. And
Love
of
it.
course, there's so many on the trails too. And they're not all dark doom and gloom, but there's a lot of really interesting stories that take place on the trails.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys are good at retelling them. Last question from me. This is our sponsor question. The Stay Salty question presented by LMNT. Use our code drinklmnt.com/trek. What is your hottest take in the world of backpacking or the outdoors at large?
Our hottest take.
Yeah.
Hottest
Maybe
take.
some hot takes.
What does that mean?
It means like an opinion that like might be controversial.
Oh.
Like I refuse to hike in anything apart from Crocs. That's not true, but that would be a hot take.
Okay.
Or like if you don't carry camp shoes, you're not doing it right. That would be a hot take.
Hot take. Hiking in Chacos is totally the move.
And my hot take is Tevas are better than Chacos.
No.
That's my hot take.
No.
We battle.
I have Chacos and you have Tevas on
Yeah.
you. I hiked the Highline in my Chacos the other day.
You
Did
did.
you?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I made a rookie mistake though. I forgot my hiking boots, so I bought new ones because I'm like, we're gonna be hiking a lot, and I didn't break them in first. So I hiked the Highline, and my feet were killing me after, and it was awful. So I hiked all of the trails for the rest of the time we were there in my Chacos.
No.
Yeah, but
Which
was
was
great.
fine.
It was great.
Yeah.
Okay. What were the boots you got?
I got Loas.
Oh, I've not heard of those.
They're my second pair. I usually do Merrell's, but I liked my last pair of Loas, and they're these mid boot. I like mid boot just because I like to roll my ankles sometimes. But they're great and they're waterproof, and I normally really like them, but I also have plantar fasciitis that happens in my feet if I don't have proper shoes. So I have inserts that I put in my shoes too, and I have not had plantar fasciitis in a really long time. So I was like, I'm fine, I don't need that. So I made a lot of rookie mistakes, and which led to my Chacos, but Chacos have great arch support, and they're water shoes. We had to do some water crossings. It was great.
Everything
It
worked out.
just fine.
Right, you heard it here first. And again, that's drinklmnt.com/trek for a free sample pack. And thanks, Element. All right, guys, I had so much fun with you. Let people know where they can find you and where they can get more.
Yeah. So you can find us anywhere on any podcast platform at National Park After Dark. We're on Instagram. We're not the greatest at social media. We do have like a TikTok and a YouTube.
You've got
and
102,000 followers on Instagram. What do you mean?
We have what?
You have 102,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, which is great.
We're not good at the real game, we should say.
Yeah, like creating like content is not our forte as far as like
we're trying to
just-
get there.
yeah,
We're
we're
working on
trying.
it, but just be nice if you see our reels and stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, so Instagram is where we're most engaged on social media. But we do have a TikTok. I think.
We do have a TikTok that we occasionally remember to post on.
Yeah.
But we are on Spotify, Apple. We have a website, npadpodcast.com, where you can kind of check out all of the stuff. We do a lot of book recommendations. So if you're a bookworm and you just want to find something that is outdoor related for a really interesting story, we have a whole list of pretty much every book we've ever read for our podcast.
I feel like it was your Instagram that you're currently reading.
Yes,
In your bio, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the one that's on there right now is probably my first did not finish.
Oh, that's tough.
I know. It's a sore subject. But we both love to read, so we had to incorporate it on our website for National Park After Dark.
I'm on Goodreads, and I also cannot not finish something, and so my currently reading is just a little bit of a graveyard of things that in theory I'm currently reading it because I'm not done, but I won't admit that I've stopped. So.
I feel that.
Yeah.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
To the Trek propaganda portion of today's show. The first one is get paid to thru-hike the Santa Fe to Taos Trail by editors. We mentioned this one, I think, at the top of the show, but yeah, all the good stuff goes out to the Trek newsletter. Unfortunately, by the time you're hearing this, application period has closed, but yeah, go to the Trek's newsletter, subscribe so you can get the lowdown. But long and short is, I'll give you a little bit more of the backstory. A couple months ago, the person who heads up the nonprofit for this brand new trail that I gather that she created, Pamela is her name, sent me her guidebook and some maps and just a bunch of swag from the trail. I'm like, this is a cool idea, and I had never heard of it before. So I'm like, we should get some content around it. And thus this paying someone to thru-hike the Santa Fe to Taos Trail idea was born. Obviously, this is a content creation role, we'll call it. But yeah, pretty sweet deal to hike a brand new, I think it's 135 miles, 130 miles, something like that. It's all on trail between Santa Fe and Taos, and it's high elevation. I think most of it's above 9,000 feet.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Had I not had a wedding to plan,
Yeah, stop getting married.
I'd be in your applications.
For sure. Although I think
What, you wouldn't hire me?
that would be a
Conflict of interest.
if you would have been selected amongst the 100 people, I probably would have selected you. So
Yeah, but that's why you DM me the job up before you put it public. Come on.
yeah.
Insider trading.
Yeah. Next one is by Katie Jackson. I'm not even going to say her name anymore. It's just implied.
that girl.
The gal, the content queen, Katie
She's actually
Jackson.
already been mentioned in the interview itself.
Really?
Yeah, because I told them that me and her were talking about the grizzly bear episode leading up to the interview.
Yeah. And I'm going to shout out Katie additionally here because Kelly, as of today, the recording today, is leaving for the Great Divide Trail, and she's going to be gone for over a month. And Katie is stepping into her shoes.
How long is the Great Divide Trail?
I forget, 1,000?
She only needs a month for it?
So, she's gone for maybe it's 5 weeks. It's a little over a month, and she's not even doing all of it.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, she hikes fast.
What is this? I should know this. 680 miles.
Wow. I guess that makes sense for 5 weeks.
But apparently you have to have your campsites selected every single night. It's a very itinerary-based thing.
How are you supposed to do that for a 600-mile hike?
It's a great question. And maybe we'll get Kelly on to tell us all about it. I know we've talked about the Great Divide Trail, but it's been a minute since we've gotten into the nuts
I'd be
and bolts.
very curious how they expect you to plan those logistics.
Yeah. But in her stead, Katie is stepping in as our seasonal managing editor. So shout out to Katie. This one is 6 cheap household items that double as ultralight backpacking gear. The first one is one that if you've done any amount of thru hiking, you're probably already familiar with. Trash compactor bags.
Yep.
You've got one. I've got one.
We all got one.
Yeah. It's the cheapest and most effective pack liner that there is.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one that I thought was interesting that I had never heard before. Number 5 from the list is, those flimsy plastic caps you find in hotel bathrooms.
Shower caps.
What did I say?
You just said plastic caps.
Oh, I didn't list the item.
Yeah, specify it's a shower cap.
Shower cap. Those flimsy plastic caps you find in hotel bathrooms? Don't throw them out. These nearly weightless covers are an awesome hack for protecting your camera, phone, or other small electronics from rain and dirt. Dedicated camera covers can be bulky and cost upward of $50, while a standard shower cap costs literally pennies or is often free.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. So you want more hacks for cheap household items that can double as UL backpacking gear? Head to the link in the show notes. Okay, question of the day.
More hacks.
More hacks. Nothing, just a couple of hacks, dealing out hacks.
Yep.
This is clearly a question from somebody.
It's from me.
This is your wording?
No, this is it's an Instagram post that I took a screenshot of, and this was the captions on the screen.
I could understand you soliciting advice, but this didn't sound like your language.
No.
What's your most unhinged marriage hack? I'm not talking never go to bed angry. I'm talking the most truly wild and insane things you've been too embarrassed to share until now.
It's like a trend people are doing. Like, we could post a video of us just like looking at the screen for a reel, and it would be like, what's your most unhinged hiking hack? I'm not talking about cutting your toothbrush in half. I'm talking, that's the trend.
Got it. Unfortunately, I don't have any like quirky things that'll make fun sound bites, like just real marital advice. And you're also asking somebody with kids, and that's a very different thing than what you're entering into. So
us in this week before my wedding.
Yeah.
You can't think of a single marriage hack to give me a little tidbit of wisdom?
What I'll say is, like, imagine that there was a PSA that was put out that said that the state of California was being changed to the state of Birmingham. I don't know. That's the first word that came to mind. How would that affect your life? It's literally just the name change.
That's your best marriage advice for me?
What I'm saying is that's how your life is going to change. If you're expecting some like grandiose thing to change because all of a sudden you have like a ring on your finger, you're going to be let down. This is really just like a symbol of commitment to one another, but really nothing about, since you're already living together.
I don't expect to wake up on August 24th like a new person. I'm just saying, like, divorce rates are high. Don't you have any advice for a successful, prosperous, healthy marriage?
That's what I'm saying is, like, it's not going to be different than anything that's happening in your life now. It's going to feel the exact same.
I feel like your mom would have a much better answer than you do.
I can give you general marriage advice, and
I don't really think it's going to be that good. Come on.
Or I should say general relationship advice.
You're not giving me confidence that you're going to give me good opinions here.
What I'm saying is, don't expect anything to change before and after marriage. It's all going to be.
That is your advice.
My advice is that, like, if you're expecting that you're entering into like a different landscape now that you're married, and that like you need some cheat code to navigate it, it's the same landscape that you've been in for years already. It's just you have a ring on your finger. What
if you're not expecting the landscape to change? You just like want tips on how to keep a relationship healthy for 80 years
That's
to
good.
come.
That's where I'm getting at. Is like this is just general relationship advice,
okay.
not marriage advice. So I think one is setting expectations that nothing's going to change.
Yeah, no, my expectations I think are set.
Okay. One thing that has worked in my marriage for both parties, I would say, is let 90 to 95% of things that bother you that the other person do go. Let all the small things go. If you make a fight out of everything that bothers you, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, fair.
You got to pick your battles, I think, is a really important one. This is not going to be difficult. This is advice for when you have kids, is that make date nights a non-negotiable. We do ours at a every other week tempo, and sometimes we don't always hit it. So I guess non-negotiable is maybe not that. We're better at having the advice than living up to it. Life gets difficult. But date nights are really important. Having time for just yourselves away from roommates, or are you guys going to still have a roommate after you're married?
I mean, for at least 6 months while the lease is going.
Yeah.
But like you said, nothing's going to change. We're not just going to kick him out the next day.
I mean, that would be a change, is if you're removing the chemistry of the house. But yeah.
Nah, I think we're doing one more year in this house, and then we're gonna look at what's next.
Yeah, that's advice for when you've got kids.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, really good, just general relationship advice. Again, is if you guys haven't taken the love language test,
ooh,
take it.
I'm all 5.
No, you're not. You can't be. I mean, yes, I think all of the things speak to all of the people, but you have to find out like what is the one that actually makes him tick. Because every person, guilty is not even the right way of saying this. It's like it's a positive thing. You give love in the way that you want to receive love. I think it's just the most natural thing. But people respect different forms of love, I guess, and knowing what makes your partner tick is the way that you have to give them love. Like you can't do it in the way that you want to receive love because it's not an efficient use of your goodwill.
Yeah, I read the five love languages for research for the significant others section of Hiking from Home. And that was the one thing was like through every chapter, I was like, oh my God, that resonates. Oh my God, that resonates. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah. Did you take the actual quiz?
Yeah. I think it's one of those quizzes where if you take it on a different day, I might get a different answer.
Sure.
It just depends on my mood for that day and what I feel like I want more of.
I would guess that at least like 2 or 3 of them are consistently popping up as the top ones.
Sure. But I just don't think I can thrive on one alone.
Yeah.
Like I like gift giving, but I'm not gonna be happy with just gift giving and no words of affirmation. And I like words of affirmation, but you can't just talk to me. Like I need some physical touch, and I like physical touch, but I can't just like be touched and not talk to. And I want to do things. So I like quality time because if I just never see you, then like that's gonna drive me nuts. And I also enjoy when people do things for me. So I like acts of service. You can't really rule any of them out because they're all great.
Okay. All right. Well, well, maybe Garrett's different. Maybe he doesn't need all 5.
Superpower.
Yeah. Maybe he needs 1 or 2 of them more than others.
I did give him the book. It's in his nightstand.
Yeah.
That was what I did.
So he's an active
afterwards.
service.
I gifted him the gift of
how to be a better spouse to me.
This book that I've marked up with my words
Yeah.
of affirmation, and my active service is giving it to you.
Yeah. Good. But
Okay.
letting the small stuff go. Don't bicker over everything that makes you mad.
Fine.
And that's something I fail at often, but I have gotten better at over the years, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I accept.
Gear Triple Crown of Outdoor Fears. I don't know whose this is. It feels generic.
Yeah, but it also feels very easy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's more beneficial for me to start or go second. I don't know what's the better spot.
I tried to do the non-obvious ones with one caveat because we could sit here and just list animals if we wanted to.
Just don't read my list. Okay, my first one's nighttime.
Okay.
Scary things outdoors, nighttime. I could be in an area and feel absolutely fine and happy and love it, and it's great, and I have no thoughts in my brain about it. And then the sun sets and it's dark, and then it's a scary spot because you start to hear all the twigs and the sounds and the rustling, and you can't see things, but things with better eyesight than you could probably see you. Yeah, nighttime scary.
Yeah. I wonder if that one's just hard-coded into our DNA because I feel like most people don't like night, but being outside especially.
Yeah.
Gas
just
on the
like
fire.
vulnerable.
Yeah. That's good. Like I said, I'm not gonna take the obvious ones with one caveat. My caveat is grizzlies. The time I've been in grizzly territory definitely kept my senses much sharper than I think any other backpacking trip I've been on. It's like it was always on my mind.
Yeah.
Grizzlies. I was intentionally loud, knew where my bear spray was, which is in a very obvious place, but yeah, I feel like the fear of grizzlies was ever present. I'm sure the more I backpack in grizzly territory, I'll just get used to it and not be such a puss, but for now I'm a puss about grizzlies.
Fair. Then I will eliminate one of mine because it falls into
Wait, are you
yours.
going?
No, I'm just piggybacking. Mine that I'm eliminating is specifically scary animals. Not just animals. I don't mind seeing a cute little squirrel.
Yeah.
But scary animals, which was the grizzlies, and also like mountain lions.
Boars?
Hogs.
Yeah. Bison?
I wouldn't say they're scary
I saw you getting
at a distance.
giant locker. Okay.
Once they get close, then they're scary. Anything can be scary if it's close. You know, like if a
Not a
squirrel's
rabbit.
on my face, I don't know.
Rabbit?
Have
I
you
guess
seen,
if it was like a rabid rabbit.
what was that movie? Donnie Darko? Isn't there like a rabid rabbit in that one?
And yeah, I guess any rabbit animal is scary.
Rabbits have teeth. There's like a rabbit in your face, and it's like, have you seen Watership Down?
Nope.
Rabbits are terrifying in Watership Down. I've never seen a scarier rabbit than, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Watership Down rabbit. Watership.
I can tell you that sweet Cece here is not afraid of rabbits. In fact,
Rabbit.
she gets great joy out of chasing them every single time.
Image. Yeah, hold on. Here we go. The first picture that pops up. This is Watership Down. That's a terrifying rabbit.
That's a terrifying rabbit.
There's blood coming out of his mouth.
Yeah. How often do rabbits get rabies? How often do rabbits get rabies? Rabies in rabbits is rare but possible. While all mammals can contract rabies, it's not commonly seen in rabbits, particularly domestic ones. Duh. If a rabbit does contract rabies, it typically manifests with neurological symptoms like paralysis. So it doesn't sound like they get the angry rabies. They just kind of die.
No, but like, I don't know. I can't stop looking at Watership Down now. I think my heart rate's elevated.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
so your second one.
Scary animals. I'm going to go with a fear that was unlocked. One that I didn't know that I had that it made me anxious was that your phone breaking on a solo backpacking trip.
Mm.
And one that you didn't bring the necessary navigational stuff with you. I didn't have maps with me. But I got away with it because it was toward the end of the trip. But it just was a bummer. Didn't have my means of communication with the outside world. Didn't have my media. I like to listen to podcasts on a long day or maybe an audiobook. Obviously, navigation is by far and away the biggest one. But yeah, it's just crazy how tethered to one device I've become. And that is especially true when you're by yourself. If you're with a group, you have more phones to fuel the hike. But being one of one without a phone and maps was not a good situation.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. Okay. My next one is heights/steep drops. Another basic one, but
Vertigo.
I feel like you can't always tell when something's going to be like that. Like you can look at the topo maps and see if something's going to be steep, but you can't really tell what it's going to look like until you get there. So there's a lot of pre-dread. If you do get vertigo and you know, like, hey, there's a ridge coming up, what will that ridge be like? You know, so I think part of that being a top 3 in my book is that you don't just get the anxiety of crossing said steep ridge, but you also get the pre-anxiety that you get to experience leading up to it.
Yeah. Certainly lived that before on the Wind River High Route. There's one like class 4 portion of it, and just the way that Skirka described it made my palms sweat very bad. And it turned out that it wasn't not even nearly the scariest part of what I had done on the route, but yeah, the anticipation of it was so much worse.
Yeah. So that one's nice. And then this next one, this is fear in a different sense, because it's not the same kind of fear, but it's still a fear. And that is that I'm a really heavy sleeper, and I am someone that sets a lot of alarms in the morning because I usually don't hear or acknowledge the first couple. I wish I could be someone that just sets one alarm. I've heard the pitch of like, if you just set one, you'll have to wake up.
Have you ever slept through one?
All the time. And that's why that wouldn't work for me, because then I would just miss work and be in trouble. So that's a problem.
That's a superpower
But-
to sleep that deeply.
Oh my God, so deeply.
Yeah.
So deeply. The problem is then I always have the fear of, no matter how low the volume on my phone is, that either the alarm will go off and someone will hear it in the shelter, or if I'm in my tent even and there's other people at the same campsite, the fear that they might in their tent hear it from my tent. And I don't wake up crazy early. Like I usually,
Confirmed.
if it's 20, 30 mile days, I'll want to be walking by 7:30, which is not late, but it's a little bit later than most. I'm definitely not getting up before the sun rises.
Yep.
But I just always have this dread fear, especially when the shelters were okay when I was with friends, because I figured if my alarm wakes up a friend, it's less bad than someone you don't know. but just that, like, you can't fall asleep with headphones in because they die by the morning if they're not wired.
Yeah.
And if they pop out of your ear and your alarm's going off in that, and okay, maybe I don't have to turn on an alarm to hike. I could just wake up when I wake up, which would be noon, and then my day would be ruined.
Is there a vibrate-only alarm?
I saw one in my targeted ads the other day. It's like a wrist bracelet you wear, and it vibrates to wake you up, like based on when you're in your lowest sleep cycle. But the math behind it still seemed very beta-esque.
Isn't that the Whoop?
No, this was a different one.
Oh.
It wasn't the Whoop. It was one that essentially it could just tell when you stopped moving, and it guessed that you fell asleep, and then it guessed your circadian rhythm off of that. There was a lot of guessing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know what the solution to that is, but that is a fear, is that I will be that person that wakes someone else up from my alarm.
Yeah. Can't you just be the person in the group that's like, hey, wake me up when you wake up?
Yes. However, like, giving someone else a task to be responsible for you instead of just doing it yourself, like, sometimes doesn't sit well with people.
That's fair.
And, like, it's not their responsibility to remember to wake me up. It's mine.
Yeah. Is that 3?
That's 3.
For my last one, I'm going to go with the old adage, you pack your fears. The thing that you pack that expresses your fears. For me, apparently, that's not having enough food. I literally just packed for the Sawtooth Loop. Didn't do it. But I had, I think, like 3,200 calories per day on the hike. And I knew that I was probably going to stop at a fast food restaurant before then to be dinner for the first night. So you can divide that up or add that to calorie to my total. So just I tend to overpack food. Apparently, I'm afraid of being hungry.
I am that way too, and I never learn. And I'm the same way with water. I'm afraid of, and that's because it's happened. But I'm afraid of hitting a dry stretch and not having water, and feeling that feeling I've felt the 2 times where it's happened, and I've just wanted to curl into a ball.
When you're miles away from water and you're out of water and it's hot, is a really uncomfortable, not enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I think those, like, if you were to ask me my top 5 least favorite times hiking, I think those moments are all immediately what comes to mind.
Yeah.
Like, that moment sucked. That was horrible.
Like,
didn't enjoy that.
The way chapped lips feel is how your whole mouth becomes. And it becomes, like, psychologically distressing.
Yeah.
Turns out we need water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Any honorable mentions?
Oh my God, so many. I'm afraid of everything. Not usually forefront in my mind, but there is always the thought of, what if I get lost? That happened a lot on the Ozark Highlands Trail when Far Out wasn't working, zoomed in. So I couldn't see me on the map anywhere, and I was actually just following trail, and it was not well marked in parts. So I would end up off trail and I would waste hours trying to find where the trail went because there's so much water. Yeah. It's like, does it go next to it? Does it cross it? I can't tell because when I zoom in on the map, it's like a tan grid with a red line. It doesn't show me anything.
Yeah. You should get one of the just general navigation apps, like the map apps.
I do now. I have that now, but it didn't work comparing them side by side. Like, you didn't have enough data to know. And things wouldn't load when I had no reception. But in those moments, I've thought, what if I were to get lost? And it's usually not a scary thought because I've got a battery pack with X amount of juice in it, and, you know, someone knows where I am and that I wouldn't appear at camp and they'd come find me the next day. But then you have the thought process of the people that go to the bathroom off the trail and get disoriented and they can't find a way back to the trail. Like, a moment like that where you make one misstep and then you've kind of fucked it, and then you have to autocorrect and you aren't autocorrecting correctly.
Yeah.
I could see that getting very scary.
Yeah. Let that be a tip to people, because I've felt that disorienting feeling before. It can, especially like in a thru hike where you're exerting yourself, you get like that weird lightheaded feeling and you're just not thinking clearly, brain fog, probably electrolytes, is to, wherever you go to the bathroom, bring your pack with you.
Yep. Another thing that I like to do, we would do things on the trail, like we would put a trekking pole on the side of the trail if we went to the bathroom there, so they would know, hey, this is where we went off to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Partially, don't come shit here, you'll find me.
Yep.
And partially, this is exactly where I left the trail. But with the second trekking pole, when you go and you find your spot, and let's say I walk straight that way and I find, okay, here's a good spot to go, what I like to do is the front of my trekking pole, how it has that extra little like lip going over, I like to point that back towards the trail. So that when I'm done wiping and I've turned around and I've sniffed my butt and I've done everything, and I've spun in a couple of circles and now I'm, dizzy, then I can just look at the trekking pole and that'll point the way back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, 'cause it seems like it's not easy to do, but it is easy to do. Especially if
Gatewood did it.
Yeah, especially if you get off at a place where it's a switchback.
Yeah.
And like you go back to the trail and you're slightly off course and you go in the direction of where the trail doesn't exist. Like, yeah, you can get fucked up pretty easily.
Or if it's fall and the leaves have come down and everything around you just looks like trail.
Yep.
That's scary.
Yep.
Okay, another fear, honorable mention, is isolation. Like, I know it's great to go outside and not be around people and that really crowded hikes suck, but imagine going and doing a long hike and you just don't see anyone the entire time.
Every year I see people that are experienced through hikers get fucked up by the CDT for this exact reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have less of that than other people. I get the anxiety before I go on the hike big time of like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this by myself. This is stupid. Don't do it. But I haven't had the experience of like, I crave human interaction, but I haven't done it for a very long time. I was alone a lot on the AT. It was so nice. I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to the point on a long hike where I haven't been around people that much, but there were times on the Colorado Trail where it would have been nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
Anyway.
My last one is just getting to a place that is mosquito dense and not being prepared. I mean, mosquitoes just in general, fuck that. But like having skin exposed and not having DEET or keratin, that's a real bummer.
Ticks.
Yeah.
Another outdoor fear.
Ticks
not getting a hitch.
Sure.
After hours.
Let us know your top outdoor fears at podcast@thetrek.co or comment on the Instagram post to the mailbag.
Are you going to let me take the mailbag with this 5-star review?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like this is up your alley. You were talking about this subject.
You just
quite a
usually like the smaller text. Was listening to
smaller
your
text.
interview with Jonathan Thomas. Full disclosure, my son has been helping Jonathan make gear, but wanted to say something about using dry ice. As a scientist, in grad school, we had to play around with dry ice. If you seal it into an airtight container, it creates a bomb. Since the dry ice undergoes sublimation, i.e. goes from solid to a gas, and pressure from gaseous CO2 inside any container builds rapidly. Serious damage to the eyes and limbs can occur. I've seen it happen. So if you do use dry ice, be sure your container is not completely airtight. From Peter. I feel like we got a lot of mail because people were really concerned that we were going to start making bombs.
I don't remember if this is the same as the last one.
It could be a different one.
Same message.
We really frightened you guys, and I'm sorry for that. I thought it was a good idea. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully the word has gotten out by now. But
yeah, don't put dry ice in a bear canister and seal it all the way.
Or do anything that I guess we weren't advocating to do it. You were just curious about it yourself.
Yeah, I thought like that would be nice for dinner.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. To the 5-star review, this is from G. Schick. Lightning in a bottle. I only recently discovered your podcast, and it already feels like I'm sitting around a campfire with old friends, swapping stories and soaking up trail wisdom. It was during your episode on lightning safety, equal parts informative and inspiring, that I decided to do 3 things. Join Patreon, thank you very much, buy my first pair of Topo Athletics, you're welcome, and finally write this 5-star review.
Thank you.
At 56, I'm preparing for my first 3-day hike on the AT, something I've dreamed about for years. Life, work, and raising 3 kids always seems to push it just out of reach, but now, with a quieter job and grown children, I'm finally making it happen. Your podcast has been the perfect companion in the lead-up, offering not just practical advice, but a sense of community and encouragement. That lightning safety episode also brought back a vivid memory on a hike up Mount Katahdin on what began as a clear blue sky summer day when, out of nowhere, a violent thunderstorm rolled in just as we were making our way across the knife's edge. There it is. We hunkered down in a rocky crevasse as lightning struck nearby, winds howled, and sleet flew sideways. As we emerged from the rocks, we saw the most amazing double rainbow arching over the ridge. I've never felt so alive, and while I hope my upcoming hikes are a little less dramatic, I do hope they reconnect me with that same sense of awe and vitality. Your podcast is truly lightning in a bottle. Thank you for helping me take the first steps toward a lifelong dream. What an excellent 5-star review from
That's
G.
nice.
Schick.
Thanks, G.
If you guys want to hear your review read on this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us any number of stars.
Just not 1, 2, 3, or 4. And for this episode, we are still right before my wedding. If you have some advice that you think is clever for a marriage, and you see the videos on Instagram come out for this episode, in those comments, if you want to let me know what your advice is, that'd be great. I try to stay out of our DMs on the Instagram because that's Elisa's territory and too many cooks ruin the soup. But if you put it in the comments, then I can just, when I do the collab, look at it and get your advice and take it. So let me know your cue of the day responses in the comments there so that I can have all the advice.
Maybe if we get enough good advice, we can make like a seasonal segment out of it. Marriage advice from listeners or something. Relationship advice.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you guys leave us a review, be sure to screenshot that and send us an email at podcast@thetrek.co, and we will send you the highly coveted Backpacker Radio sticker. Shout out to today's title sponsor, that is LMNT. They are the best. I was recently sick and surviving on nothing but LMNT. Delicious electrolytes got me through. But yeah, well, I don't know what there else is to say. It's the best. Electrolytes are very good and necessary for you. Their flavors are good.
They just get better in the summer.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's like how water tastes better when you're really thirsty. LMNT just tastes so good in a cold glass of water in the summer.
Yeah, the downside of LMNT is it does make water suck. There are times where it's hard for me to choke down water because I just want LMNT.
Oh, I thought you were saying putting LMNT in your water makes it suck.
Like plain
It's like this.
unelemented water. There's
Got it.
times where like I can't be drinking LMNT all the time.
I know. I look at this. I'm like, you're so boring.
Yeah.
And then
I know I'm
think I
thirsty
need
when
you.
like water by itself is like, oh, this is scratching an itch. That's probably me being dehydrated.
Yeah, I've had to be really diligent about making my water cold because the room temperature water, while easier to drink, it's just, that's like the lowest tier.
Yeah.
Room temperature water, cold water, room temperature LMNT water, cold LMNT water.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the ranking.
LMNT's the best. And electrolytes on trail are very important. And if you use our URL, drinklmnt.com/trek, you get a free sample pack with your first order. I think first order. You can use different emails. Super big thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners on Patreon. That is Alex and Misty with Navigators Crafting, Alex Kindle, Andrew, Austin McDaniel, Brad Blair from 13 Adventures, Bill Jensen, Brent Stenberg, Brian Alsop,
Fables.
Carl Hood, Christopher Marshburn, Clever Innuendo, Coach from Marion Outdoors, Eric Casper,
The Friendly Ghost.
Eric Hoffman, Ethan Harwell Dunn, Julian Daniels, Greg Knight, Greg Martin, Greg McDaniel. You're just whispering stuff now.
I realized that for Casper. I didn't need to do that.
Griffin Hay, would you bring me a beer? Haley Buckingham.
Palace.
Minty Hike Studio. Patrick C. and Cielo, Rebecca Brave, Rural Juror, Sawyer Products, Spam, Timothy Hahn,
Solo.
and Tracy Trigger. Thanks to our guy Paulie at Old Man Murph's Coffee Roasters. Go to ommcr.com and get yourself some delicious beans.
Like, couldn't you just put it in your poop hole?
Whoa.
Get Polly's beans out of my poop hole. Got Skirka's pube on my tongue.
What is...
Who's doing that? Who's pushing those buttons? And you didn't do it until I came in with a fat bag of burgers. I don't remember that.
Where are you going for your honeymoon? Sorry, that was...
Did he add in the... Oh, no, that's me crossing a stream. I thought that was when I was stirring... Do you remember the other one when I was stirring the pasta and I was making, like, a noise?
I don't remember that.
There's a noise just like that, but it's me with pasta.
Where are you going on your honeymoon?
I think at the moment we're on Thailand. I know it's, like, really right around the corner.
Yeah, don't
and
you
we
have to book
yeah,
stuff?
Yeah. I saw that crate was on fire in Greece. I don't know how much of it or what the situation is. I haven't really researched it too much. But once I started seeing that, I was like, I don't know if I want to fuck with this. I've had fire ruin trips too many times.
Sure.
Garrett wants Thailand. I told him that if I'm going on that long of a flight, it better be for a substantial amount of time. So I think it's going to be around 2.5 weeks we're gone. Originally, what made the most sense for like his schedule was us to fly home on a certain day, and that day ended up being September 11th. And I was like, nope, we are staying in Thailand for 2 more days because I won't do that.
Yeah.
So
Feels like September 11th might be the safest day to travel.
yeah, I just don't need to test it.
Yeah, fair.
I had a friend once who I don't know why this memory sticks, but we were in like some sort of grade school, and her mom was flying out to a business trip on the 11th, September 11th, and she was flying back on Friday the 13th. And I was like, that's bad.
Yeah.
That's really no good.
Tested and fate twice.
Yeah.
So I'm flying internationally for Tour de Mont Blanc. Guess where my layover is? Newark.
Shut up. They want us to transfer in Newark on the way back, too. And I
had
didn't know if I wanted
non-Newark transfer options, but those times were just by far and away the most convenient.
Garrett's under the impression that Newark is safer than ever because they had to overcompensate after all that bonkers stuff happened.
Yeah. Also, I don't think anything happened there. They just said that it was dangerous.
They had like they had one air traffic controller, didn't they, for everything?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to speak out there.
I don't know. I just think Newark is suddenly scary.
Yeah.
But alas. Oh, you know what else sucks is we're driving home for the wedding, and we're leaving Harper with my parents, and we're going on a honeymoon from there because that makes sense for Europe because that's, you know, where you would fly to and from closer.
Yeah.
For frickin' Thailand, though, one of our layovers is Denver for an hour. I'm like, that's just cruel.
Maybe you can hop on the podcast and...
Yeah, but it's like I don't want to drive back after the wedding and like have to figure out like what to do with Harper and waste those days of PTO driving back. So it's like
the last news story I see about the wildfire in Crete was from July 3rd. I don't know if that means it's been handled or if U.S. just doesn't care about international stuff.
It just feels risky. Plus,
is that the island that you'd go to? Not like Santorini, Mykonos?
We go to Santorini for a day. We'd do a little bit of island hopping, but we'd probably go there for like 4 or 5 days. I don't know. And now that we looked at Thailand, I like Thailand because I studied abroad there, so it's sentimental to me. And in my mind, I'm like, if Garrett goes there for his honeymoon, it'll be sentimental to him too. And then we have more excuses to go back. The other nice thing about Thailand is we looked up the bougiest place and all the spots that we want to go, and it is substantially cheaper.
Yeah.
So we can do more. But it also is like part of the rain season, like the tail end. And that's a little worrying too. I don't know. That's a tomorrow problem, not a today problem.
Mm-hmm. Why do you not like when it's wet?
That's your whole look. Is that a clean?
Okay, we don't need to go through the archives.
I am a
Save some
cornbread
for future
hoe.
episodes. I am a cornbread hoe.
Oh my God, are we gonna go get our assholes waxed together?
Right.
I've done that since.
Yeah, you do everything you rap about.
Everything I rap about.
It's a saying in the world of hip hop that
Oh.
you don't just spit the lyrics, but you live the lyrics.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fun.
Yeah.
That's a nice little motto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
I did everything I rapped about.
Yeah, that's right. You can follow us on social at Backpacker Radio on Instagram and TikTok, at BackpackerPod on X, Facebook.com/Backpacker Radio. You can follow Chaunce.
You can find me on Instagram at Juliana_Chauncey and on YouTube at Juliana Chauncey. And you can get my book, Hiking from Home, a Long Distance Hiking Guide for Family and Friends, on Amazon.
Appalachian Trials and Pacific Crest Trails are my books, and we would both be very appreciative of a review on Amazon. Subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on YouTube.
Internet.
And that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and happy hiking.
Bye.